Hello, welcome to Federal Sector Labor Management Relations Watch. The focus of today's episode in this podcast is on remote work versus return to office policies, which are going to get a lot of attention in the federal sector going forward under Trump 47, when Trump is sworn in officially on January 20th, 2025. Today is Friday, January the 17th, 2025. I'm Eric Masters, Professor of Business Emeritus, commentator, and podcaster. You can find me at my email address and YouTube channel. I welcome your comments and thoughts about this podcast, which I am devoting to issues in federal sector labor management relations. The topics covered today are remote work and telework in the federal sector, the extent of its usage, the difference between telework and remote work, competing views from management's perspective on this topic, and selected research, which looks at the impact of various types of workplace arrangements, remote versus hybrid work, on employee performance. In terms of the actual scope of telework and remote work in the federal government, there's been a lot of inaccurate information published which suggests that the overwhelming majority of federal employees work remotely, or that they worked in Washington, D.C., and that they, in effect, don't work very hard. I think all of those are myths which can be disabused by actual data. And I went to a report published by the Office of Management and Budget in August of 2024, which was cited also in the excellent work done on FedSmith, the website there, which I encourage you to go to for additional information on this and other topics, on the extent of telework and remote work, which are different types of work arrangements, but one is a subset of the other in the federal government, and it breaks it down here in this table by department and major agency. You can see that there are close to 1.1 million federal employees that are eligible for telework, and there are 227 plus thousand that are remote employees, which is a subset of telework. Among all employees, excluding remote workers, the percentage of regular working hours spent in person is close to 80%. And among telework employees, although some of these work off-site at their homes and other locations, 61% of their time is spent working on-site. The Office of Personnel Management, in a report on telework that's available on its website, distinguishes between telework and remote work. And in practice, this is from its website, OPM says that telework is a work arrangement that allows employees to have regularly scheduled days on which they telework and regularly scheduled days when they work in their agency work site. They are generally expected to be in their regularly scheduled days at their work site, but they are also allowed on certain regularly scheduled days to work remotely. Remote work is an arrangement, sort of the flip of this, in which workers are not expected to be on site on a regular basis, but they are maybe required to be on site on a selected basis in order to perform their work. There are competing views held by management and certainly many other observers and analysts and academics in this field about the appropriateness of remote work arrangements, particularly since we are past the pandemic era and a lot of remote work was introduced in response to that for understandable reasons. And Jamie Dimon has one point of view, and JP Morgan Chase has a company that has instituted a return to work policy. And he said, we think return to work is the best way to run the company. As we've discussed before, the benefits of working together in person are substantial and irreplaceable, and we spend more time together, the more advantages we gain. That's one view. Chris O'Neill, the Growth Loop CEO, has a slightly different take on it. And he said, despite its challenges, and he recognizes the challenges of remote work, he said, it has surprised me in ways I didn't anticipate. The most significant benefit, access to global talent pool. That there's a lot of opportunity that would not result otherwise by being able to put people together in remote locations to work on teams that is made available as a result of technology that enables people to really work simultaneously together, but from remote locations. My personal point of view is that a lot of the push for return to office policies is done because of management control and also concerns that are being voiced by people that have to come back to work because of the nature of their job, and they complain to management that they think it's inequitable that some workers are allowed to work remotely while they have to come back to the office. I think those are probably two of the primary drivers of policies that are behind return to office. It is really, in my judgment, an issue of management control. And the important question from workers' point of view is the extent to which they might have any influence over the introduction and the design and implementation of return to office policies as opposed to remote work policies. And that, I think, depends ultimately on the extent to which they have union representation, which provides for a mechanism or a voice for them to be heard. There's been a growing body of research in academia that focuses on the impact of alternative work arrangements, remote work, return to office policies, hybrid work on worker performance. One study published at the University of Pittsburgh Business School finds that the results are consistent with employees' concerns that managers use return to office for power grabbing and blaming employees for poor performance. They provide evidence that return to office mandates hurt employee satisfaction but do not improve firm performance. Another study by Nicholas Bloom, an economist at Stanford University, shows that employees who work from home 2 days a week are just as productive and as likely to be promoted as their fully office-based peers. The study found that hybrid work had zero effect on workers' productivity or career advancement and dramatically boosted retention rates. I would expect that you would see on a comprehensive review of all the literature that there are differences across the context of the work, the nature of the work being performed, the way the policy is designed and implemented, and the voice that people have in the design and implementation of these specific policies and practices. A lot more work needs to be done, but I think it's very helpful if workers have an opportunity to have a voice over such policies, and they can only really get this through a union. I'm Merrick Masters, and you can find out a little bit more about me in this brief slide. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and stay tuned for more. Thank you, and have a good day.